the three cameras to kind of keep it kind of dynamic and interesting.
Hmm.
And then I realized kind of when I kind of looked at your tips on, closing the eye on two cameras, opening it on a third, and kind of cutting back and forth. But
Hmm.
sometimes I'd look and it would say like I had like whatever 50 layers because they're just all piled up, all these different angles of the camera. Then I
Huh.
started putting in, I forget what they're called, scenes, I guess, kind of
Yep.
every 10 seconds or so, just so it wasn't like a million different angles I was dealing with. So that helped a little bit. But yeah, I guess if you have any advice on the best way to
Do
organize
all
all
that.
this, yeah.
Well, if you're seeing that many layers, did you bring in the sequence like a bunch of times, like multiple times
No,
or
it
something?
seems to be like what, and maybe this isn't the best way to do it, but should I share my screen and just show you what I've got? Does that
Yeah,
help?
that'd be great.
Okay. Um, sorry, there. Yeah, this is it here. You see it okay?
No, I don't see it yet.
Hmm.
Did it say that it started?
Oh, sorry, no, it didn't.
There we go. Perfect.
So what I was doing was kind of starting, sorry, we're kind of blocking my, this is just my husband and I goofing around. I'm just doing a million tests before I really do it.
Mhm.
Um, so kind of this wide, so I had that shot. So this is my guest
Oh,
audio,
yeah. Okay, so
my
you don't have it
audio.
in a sequence. It's just you just got them layered.
Yes.
Do you mentioned a sequence? Do you also have them in sequences? Did you set that
No,
up?
I probably didn't know what I was saying.
Okay, okay.
So what I did was kind of I put in the script layer and then I just dragged the audio and then three cameras into the project.
Yeah, okay. So can you pull the Descript window over a bit? Because it's getting cut off on the right
Yeah.
side. So if you go to project over here,
Yep.
what you're gonna want to do is select your three cameras, like hold
Yep.
shift and select and your mics as well. You're gonna want to select everything. And
Yep.
then right click on them, that big selection, and then create sequence. And then label them so Takashi and then his cameras. Yeah,
Yep.
make sure it knows
I'll
who
give
each
it a
person
speaker
is.
name. Okay.
And
Great.
then with that set, hit create sequence. And now this is all five layers are
Yeah.
together. And did you um did you do like a clap or
I
anything?
did. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you can find that clap and then
Yeah.
sync it at that part.
Yeah.
And so yeah, when you get all five layers together,
Yeah.
um, then that's when we're gonna do the stuff you saw in the course with like the multicam and
Cutting back and forth between them all.
yeah,
Okay.
Hey Ross, I got a question that applies to this whole stuff because you know that I had to go through this same
yeah,
process,
yeah.
not as many layers or cameras, I should say.
Uh-huh.
But my question that relates is as soon as you insert all of your files, like your camera, whatever, do you create the sequence first, or do you want to edit your transcript first? And
Yes, that's one of
then,
my questions too.
yeah, because like I know, like after doing this, I'm like, I think I did things out of order so that like I probably spent too much time editing something else when I should have done that first. So I know you did one YouTube video of like how you go through your process of editing, and it was
Uh-huh.
awesome. But like if you could do something like that with these kinds of podcasts with different cameras, voices, and go through your step-by-step process of how to edit these kinds of videos. Because like I said, like, what do you do first? Create the sequence, or do you edit your transcript first?
Yeah. I don't edit the transcript first, but you could. I hadn't really thought to do that, to be honest. Um,
My
and there's
fear is
an
though, just matching up the cameras after that might be tricky, right? I guess that's my challenge with this. Like, um, if I cut out from Takashi like a second sentence and then the fifth sentence, like how do I cover that with, because now the cameras are going
yeah.
to be all off because now,
Yeah, you definitely wouldn't
three
want
minute,
to
three
make
sec.
you wouldn't want to make any cuts to the
Okay,
video when you're editing the transcript if you were to do it that way.
got it.
Um, because you can still edit everything from when it's in the sequence, you can still edit it. Like that's why I've never thought to do that. Um, and also you would only edit your main microphone because you're gonna mute the cameras anyways.
Right.
So yeah, I'm just trying to think of any. I could show you how you could do that, and then you could decide if it's worth doing. Like if you hit done,
Mhm. Okay.
and we'll come back to the syncing it in a moment, but if you click the three dots next to one of your main mic files, and then you say new composition from file. So now that just created a composition where just that mic is by itself. And so you could go through and edit the transcript and clean it up. Again, I wouldn't cut the video. I wouldn't make any cuts to the content. I would just like mute out parts or do something
Oh,
like
okay.
that. But because if you make any cuts, then when you put it in the sequence, the whole thing's going to be off.
Yeah, that was my fear.
Um, so that's why I just wouldn't do this, but you
Okay.
could. This is how you would. This would be fixing the transcript. Um, So if you go back to the sequence, and by the way, when you created the sequence, now there's that little folder called sequences. And then if you
Yep.
had multiple sequences, they'd be under that drop down.
Okay.
But you could click on this one, and
Oh,
then
okay.
you could hit these three dots and then edit sequence. And now find your claps and drag them so that each layer is synced up.
That's probably a clap there.
It looks like it. And does that make sense, Kelly? Like kind of how that works? How that could work?
Um, I'm still trying to figure out um when you upload all your files, is the first thing you do is create a sequence? Because
Yeah.
then because then when you go back to your transcript, anything that you do in your transcript reflects into your sequence. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Which is why it's best to do it there because then the sequence will stay together, all the files inside of it.
Right.
Um, and
Basically, I
when
should
when we
just
get to
split
that
this
point,
clip and then get rid of the part before it, like cut this out.
yeah, yeah, you could, yeah. Yeah, you could that's actually a very good way to do it. You could just do that and then slide the clap all the way to the beginning of
Yeah.
every at the
Mhm.
0 second marker.
Weird though. I don't know. Maybe they're not.
Was there multiple claps or
Yeah, it's weird. Eh?
if you so there's a lot of nuance to the sequence and like if you click up
Yeah.
here, that's how it'll move the playhead. You got
All
to
right.
click in
I
the
see where you.
numbers.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Yeah.
There's some
Oh, that's a click. Okay. Here it is here. Okay. Yeah, I noticed that too sometimes. Okay. Oh no, that's another click. I can mess around with this at another time. I don't have to
Yeah,
go
it's
through
not
all
my
this.
favorite
Okay.
part.
Yeah, it's super annoying and it
But
definitely
this
takes some
is
practice.
a better way to do it, I think, which is I wasn't sure what I was missing, but
Yeah, yeah, this is the key skill is
to do a sequence first.
sequence. Yeah. And so I think you got the gist of it. Like you'll find
Yeah.
your clap, sync them vertically, and then as soon as you hit done, when you make you'll probably want to make a new. Actually, I'll walk through it even with the unsynced file
Okay.
because once you do sync it, it'll still work. So if you create a new composition up here in the top, or right where your mouse was, that works as well. If you hit the plus
Mhm.
button there, and then new composition, and then drag in the sequence that you
Oh,
created, just like that. Oh, and switch it to video because it made it audio only. Just click that. Yeah. So there we go. So now you see what happened? You got your separate, if you hover over those are your separate
oh,
cameras.
wow.
And if you fast forwarded a couple seconds, we should see your camera too.
Amazing.
Yeah. And this is what you saw in the course where I could do the automatic multicam and
Yeah.
decide how each scene looks. And so once it's all synced, the underlying sequence, when you make a cut in the transcript or any changes whatsoever, it'll cut all the layers
No
proportionally,
way.
keeping
Mhm.
everything in sync for the rest of the video.
Wow.
Mhm.
So basically, bottom line is create a sequence. So this script here, the script as I just dragged and dropped it, created that script that quickly? Like that's where that came from?
So every underlying source file, your two
Yeah.
audios and your three videos, were
Yeah.
already transcribed. Like they probably happened automatically when you brought it in, if you
Oh, okay.
told it to. And so when those went into the sequence, each of the files inside of it were transcribed. And the order is going to be off because you haven't synced it yet.
Yeah.
But once you sync it, then it should all line up. And then just to reiterate, you're going to mute your video layers and then just have your
Mm.
good mics be the only layers that are actually audible.
So how would I find my mic layers
So to go
for the three
back into
cameras?
the sequence, another way is if you hit show timeline in the bottom left,
Okay.
and now you see, so it just shows up as one layer, but that is in fact your sequence.
Mhm.
And if you double click on it, you're back inside your sequence editor.
Mhm.
And
And this
then
is where I can just go through and edit the audio.
yeah. And you could like if there's crosstalk, something that might
Yeah.
happen that Kelly learned, if you're in the
Yeah.
same room and there's mic bleed, then
Yeah.
you could isolate like portions where that's happening and mute that
Yeah.
specific track.
Which is what I do with the podcast.
Okay, yeah. So you're
Yeah.
Wait,
I
familiar
say
with
that
that.
again.
usually,
Say that
Go
again, you
ahead.
said?
Yeah, say like he said that's what I do with my podcast. What do you do with your podcast when you got
exactly what
multiple?
Ross said, like with the mic bleed, it's kind of a pain in the ass, but I'll go through the audio. So
Yeah.
there's my track and Takashi's track. And
Uh-huh.
so if I want to, if I don't want to see it like we're talking on top of each other there, usually go through and I don't know if this is the most efficient way, but I'll split the clip and I'll go through and I'll just mute that. So now you just hear me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the best way to do it, Ross.
Yeah, no,
Or
that is
sometimes I'll
exactly it.
push it over like that.
So
If I
now
want
the
to hear
problem, be
both of
careful
them,
with
I'll push
that
it over.
because now
Yeah.
the whole rest of the sequence is going to be out of,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It works fine with just audio, but yeah, with
yeah,
video too, it's gonna mess
Oh.
up. Yeah. Yeah,
audio
usually
is
I
a
just
lot.
go through and I cut it. Yeah. If they're talking over each other and mute it.
Yeah. Yeah. So same principle here. You can just
Go
mute
back
that
and forth
specific.
like that. Yeah.
Yep.
So, Josh, my boss was wondering like how he could prevent this from happening again, and um, the other friend of mine who is like a video editor
Hmm.
had just suggested to be farther apart in the room,
Yeah.
and then have their microphone a little closer to their mouths because they were kind of out there. Um, and so he's hoping to start doing that, um, to
Yeah.
make it easier on me because that kind of stuff takes a long time if you're just gonna
It does.
mute,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very laborious. Yeah, to go
Yeah.
through every single line. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's things you can do in the environment, like being further apart. That's a big one.
Mhm.
You could also uh, turn the gain down on the mic so it doesn't pick up. Like this would be an alternative to being physically further away. Make the mic less sensitive, and then move it closer to each speaker's mouth.
Yeah,
That would be a good move.
yeah.
Um, yeah. Oh, and also beyond that would be to just like sound deaden the room more if possible. If you have like carpet is a good start. Sound panels, if you got the budget for it, acoustic panels, like that kind of stuff helps a lot.
I did notice like with this setup where you have here, like I didn't really get a lot of mic bleed, which is I don't know why. Maybe because it's a bigger room. I don't know, but last time I did it, it was a smaller office where this is a big space. So, and they were lined up with the flat perfectly. So I didn't really, yeah, it sounded a lot better for what
Hmm.
it's worth.
Yeah, something about the acoustics of the room, which I'm surprised. It
Yeah.
looks like you got like brick wall or something, like hard surfaces, but
Yeah. It's a big open loft. So it's pretty big. So
Hmm.
there's also like all sorts of stuff. Like if with in Josh's setup, I don't know if the middle between the two are showing, but you could set up like a some sort of acoustic shield type of thing that could help cut down on the cross. They make mic. I've talked about this before, where they make shields for the microphone itself that
Oh,
deaden sound from going out and around.
huh,
Um, so there's things you can do to the physical environment that could save you a lot of time on editing.
right.
this is
Um,
recorded, right, Ross? If I want to go back and watch this. Okay.
yeah, I'll post this on
Okay.
the community, and then the live stream on YouTube as well is going to be there.
Awesome. Now this will
Yeah.
save me a lot of time, just what we just did there, but I probably can't do it on my own again. So
Yeah.
thank
And
you. That was
I'm systematically redoing the whole course, and I'm planning to redo the audio lessons, like sequences and stuff like that very soon. It's
Nice.
high on the queue.
yeah, it works super well. Like that's what I was doing with editing the podcast, but just when I added in the video, yeah, I guess I totally forgot that I can just do the same thing. I guess it was because like Rooms automatically put it in a sequence and like I could just right click
Yeah.
over that timeline and it would say edit sequence. I click on it and right away I'd get the so yeah, I never had to what we just did there, create a sequence. I
Yeah.
always I always got the sequence automatically. So I didn't know I could do it kind of retroactively after I have three video channels, two audio channels, and then put that all in for a sequence.
Exactly. Yeah. Rooms makes that easy, that whole
Yeah,
flow, and you don't
yeah,
even have to think about it. And
yeah, exactly.
there's some other, I mean, yeah, doing it in person, you got to do it manually, or unless you have a device where you start all your devices at the same time, your mics and your
Yeah,
cameras and stuff.
yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, gotta do it the old-fashioned way with a clap or a something.
Yeah, the clap surprisingly worked really well. Like I thought I didn't really have any like mics were perfectly synced up. There was like, but then I noticed what I was doing there. I started like cutting back and forth and cameras were flying all over the place. And so yeah, I got to do it in a sequence. That'll save me, yeah, like
Yeah,
weeks of work. So that's super helpful.
yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
Especially where like I was nervous with, you know, cutting ums and ahs or whatever out of the interview. And then I'm like, oh my God, like what if all the cameras start moving around and going crazy? So if it's all I can make a cut like that and not have to worry about. That's why I want to do the guest on two separate cameras so I can cut back and forth between them if I want to cut out little bits and pieces. So that'll give me
Yeah.
lots of options.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Um, anything from you, Kelly? Any further questions about that or
No, I think my last project was a big enough headache.
did you finish it? Is it
I
published?
did, yeah. It was like a week
Congrats on getting
late,
through it.
but Josh was really like he understood that it was like
The first
something I
one.
had no well, it's partly his mistake because he didn't set up the mic. So like he wasn't he didn't know really what he was doing when he was setting it up as well. So
Right.
it was fine. Like it's not doesn't sound the best, but it works. Um, so
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you got through it. It's always just learn as you go. It's the only way to do
yeah.
it.
It was weird though. I think you were right though. Like that particular composition that we had started with just really got corrupted and like
Yeah.
it didn't seem like anything I was trying to do was working for me. So I basically started from scratch. And which helped me because I had to line up all the voices and I know you helped me that first time. So
Uh-huh.
then I kind of was forced to do it my own
Right.
myself.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, okay, this is how you do it. And but then I just deleted that other composition, which I was a little worried about because when you make one composition, it like only anything within the composition is gets messed up, right? If since I started a
Yeah.
new one, like I didn't have to worry about um, all my uploads, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Unless you can have one sequence that is being referenced, being used in multiple compositions. Um,
Oh, really?
yeah, yeah. So, and in that case, the sequence, like, trying to think how to explain this. If you make changes to the sequence, it'll change in all the compositions where it's being used inside of the same
Oh,
project. So, like, if your first project had its own sequence and your new one had a sequence, those would be separate and they wouldn't interfere. But if you mess up the timing of a sequence that's being used in multiple compositions, it would mess up in everywhere that it's being used.
yes. Okay. So I meant, yeah, I didn't mean to say I started a new project
Yeah.
altogether.
And a
So,
brand
but
new
yeah, I understand
sequence.
what you're saying.
Its own.
Like within a composition, anything that you change with that same sequence is going to mess up or change the rest of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah. But within a composition, yeah, any cuts in there is just going to be how that one looks. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, and that file definitely was, I mean, there was times I would have to open it multiple times and it would have an error or it would just take
yes,
forever and it's like, okay,
yes.
that's not normal.
Yeah. I spent way too much time trying to like, and I feel like because I was learning, it wasn't allowing me to learn because it was not really doing what I wanted it to do. And I didn't know if it was my fault or if it was the whole thing was just
Yeah.
messed up.
I've been having a new problem. I was editing a sequence today that came from rooms and it just didn't transcribe or it transcribed each individual speaker, but it didn't put all the transcriptions into the composition, into the transcript. And so, like, if I looked in the sequence, they were all transcribed, but then on the
Yes.
main transcript, things weren't showing
Yes.
up, which, yeah, I think
Yes.
was what was happening with Josh, right? That was,
Yeah. Like it was weird.
yeah, but it was happening like really bad on this one project I was working on because there's five different speakers
Mm,
and I there's some workarounds I'm trying, but it definitely shouldn't be happening. I don't know what's going on with that.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
What did
I
you
had some trouble with rooms last week or the week before, like
Hmm.
two interviews. It was the people, the host could hear herself like delayed by a couple seconds in her mic. So I ended up doing them on Zoom, which was fine, but it was just that within a couple days there was a little delay twice when I was doing it. So I'm not sure
I
what
wonder
happened.
if that was because of the the guest audio was coming through, or her voice was coming through the guest speaker, which was getting
Yeah,
picked up by the guest mic, and then just creating a feedback cycle.
yeah, yeah, there was something weird like that.
Um, yeah, I don't know. And because
The good news
Zoom
is
is
was
really good
she's
about having built-in noise cancellation, so it
yeah. So
fixes that.
she I don't think she appreciated rooms until we did it on she goes said, let's just do it on Zoom. She always used to say that. And I say, well, like there's not as many options, blah, blah, blah. So we did it on Zoom. And then she realized like the crosstalk or like, the her mic, the last word kind of would go down while it was switching to the person was talking.
Oh
And
yeah,
so it was useful for me to explain to her like the limitations. That's why rooms is so much easier for me because I do everything in a sequence where I can mute the other mic or I can pull the crosstalk apart and like it gives me so many options.
right.
So it was a useful exercise for her because she finally went, "Oh wow, I didn't realize rooms could do all." She did stuff on Riverside as well, so she'd done stuff on that, but she didn't appreciate the difference between rooms or Riverside and Zoom and how there's
Yeah,
so many limitations with what you're capable. We had to redo a bunch of questions just because, I mean, again, it was just a podcast audio only, but a couple times I said like it's switching to the other person's mic. That's why your last syllable is kind of down because it went to the other guest mic. So
right.
it's
And you
useful
can't control
exercise.
where it changes. So like somebody
Yeah.
coughs or laughs and then it
Yeah.
switches
And
to
it's
camera
gone.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've had that
So,
conversation many times. It's
yeah.
hard for non-editors to understand
Yeah.
like what do you mean you
Can't you
can't
just
control the
fix that?
camera?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said, no, that's the way it was recorded.
One thing that is is if you're going to use Zoom, then make sure in your settings you have the gallery view and the active speaker view on.
Oh,
And
okay.
then you can make a sequence out of it where you have those two
Oh,
different layers, and then you can switch between the two. So anytime
oh,
the camera doesn't change where you want it to, you could manually change it to the speaker or the gallery view where everyone's showing, and
oh.
then just yeah, manually like do it like that, and that can work pretty well.
You can, when you go to say, because we're starting to do webinars in about a month or so, which I'm going to record live and people will attend them. And then I want to bring it in to Descript after and edit it and tighten it up and stuff like that. So when I go to schedule a webinar, like usually I just click on speaker view, but should I click on gallery view as well? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Then you have that option. So in the moments where the camera switches and you don't want it to, you
Yeah.
could cut to the gallery view.
Oh, okay.
Um, or you could be primarily on the gallery view and just sometimes switch to the act. There's
Yeah.
just more options. Um, and then the way you would do that is with the sequence that you just learned today. So
Right. So when I take the Zoom record and put it into script, it would give me that sequence of speaker view and gallery view, two separate on
if
two
your
separate lines.
settings are set up for that, yeah.
Oh, wow. And what
Um,
would the people attending the Zoom see? They would usually see the speaker view.
I think, well, with Zoom, it depends on each person's own settings. Like if they choose
Oh,
to
okay.
pin somebody or if they have
Okay.
self view on or off.
Okay.
I'm trying to pull up my Zoom settings right now to show you.
Because I'm doing a million tests for that as well. So maybe my next test, when I go to set up the webinar, I'll click on speaker view and gallery view and then
Yeah,
import it into Descript and see if and build a sequence that way.
yeah, it's worth trying.
Yeah.
Here's the,
Like this right now, is this a Zoom meeting you have us on?
yeah, we're in
Okay.
Zoom.
Okay.
So, and actually, I don't remember if I have this particular meeting recording I think I have this recording in my computer, so I won't have actually be able to use this in Descript with the integration. So,
Oh,
as you probably know, you have to record to the cloud to do the integration where it brings in the recordings automatically. And then here's the settings, which I actually don't have the gallery view on right now. But what you'd want to do is well, actually, you could do this one. This would be the most inclusive. This would record active speaker, gallery view, and shared screen separately.
wow.
Or you could do gallery view with shared screen. I don't know if shared screen's applicable for you, but that's a thing. And then yeah, somebody in the chat on YouTube mentioned this, but record audio only files. You can record a separate audio file of each participant. And that's really useful because you can mute out crosstalk and all the options you can do with rooms, or just in a sequence in general. But yeah, so having a separate audio file, I recommend. Adds a lot of complexity, but that's that's the best way to do it for really clean editing.
Oh, okay.
And then when you do your cloud recording and you do an import from Zoom, then all of those files will come into a sequence.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Awesome.
So yeah, and then you can use that sequence to switch between the views as
Yeah,
needed.
that's good to know.
And there's some pretty good help articles on
Mm,
Descript's website about setting all that up too.
okay.
If you type in Zoom, you can see the screen still, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is on Descript, right?
Yeah, so this is
Mm. Oh, okay.
help.descript.com,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they tell you so like based on what you're looking to do, like single combined video track, this is the simplest, straightforward production.
Right,
Then just active speaker with shared screen. That's
right.
it. And then or gallery view alternatively, like
With
one of
shared
one.
screen.
Um and then the multi cam, then record each one separately, basically.
Wow.
And
Cool.
then yeah, they talk about sequences, all that stuff.
And then bring it in as a sequence.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes in as a sequence. And
Oh, no
here's
way. Okay.
so here's what it looks like inside of the sequence. So there's a
Yeah.
shared screen view or its own layer, gallery view, speaker view, and every single one of those has their own audio file. So you would
Wow.
need to mute all of those except for your audio individual speaker files. Um, and then those I would leave unmuted, and then you could fix the crosstalk, which is what they're showing here, where you just splice out like the little blip and then mute it.
Okay. So if I do Zoom again, I should probably have these settings.
Yeah, yeah, it's
I
worth
would be able to
digging
fix the
into.
crosstalk.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, yeah, check it out. Yeah, I mean, the problems with rooms lately has me wondering if I should stop suggesting it to people and go back to Zoom for most purposes. Because
Yeah, I've been like, I started at Christmas, I guess, and right up till 2 weeks ago, it was seamless. Like everything I was doing, and it went so well. Like I used to always have a backup Zoom link just in case it
right,
crapped out and I needed to launch it immediately. And then I even stopped doing that. And then 2 weeks ago, all of a sudden it got a little wonky. I don't know. But up till then, it was like effortless. Like it was so fast and easy. And then it would even switch between the languages. But I noticed actually yesterday, well, no, it wasn't rooms, but I did import had people speaking English and French, and I put it into script, and it didn't. Lately it's been flipping back and forth between English and French, but it didn't do it yesterday. It just put everything in as English, so that was a little
mm,
weird. Yeah, maybe they're kind of messing or changing something a little bit. I don't know.
And it translated the French to English, right?
English, yeah. So everything just came in as English. Whereas the last time I did rooms, people were speaking French, and I just imported it directly into Descript, and it just automatically translated everything or
Like
transcribed
the,
everything in French. I didn't have
uh,
to select a language or anything. So that was another reason why I was, wow, this is so convenient and fast and easy and great. And
when you first brought it in, or I wonder if in your settings, if you changed it to say English and then I haven't had that exact use case where there's multiple
mm,
languages in the same
mm,
conversation. So
mm.
I'm wondering if you told it to just do English for the
Could
transcript, and
be
then before you might have said auto, and
right.
it switched between the two.
Yeah, probably you're right. The first time, yeah, someone had sent me something in speaking English and French back and forth to each other. So true, like in the past, it was just all either French or all either English. It wasn't people flipping back and forth.
Hmm.
So maybe that was part of the problem. But it could be a setting, you're right. I'll have to check.
Yeah, because when the transcription box pops up, it prompts you for the language, and it usually says auto,
Hmm.
and that makes me wonder if it's switching between the language within the same conversation. It probably is.
Yeah, it's done that actually, because I can think of one I did where the guests and the host started speaking English, and then when they started the podcast, they both speak switched to French. And when I that automatically went into Descript, it did the first part in English, and then it automatically switched to French, which I was really surprised.
Huh.
So it somehow
Yeah.
knew exactly which language was being spoken. I didn't have to do anything. That was again, it was like so convenient and fast.
Yeah, I've had it in Mexico where I'm walking around taking video, and
Yeah,
when I put it into Descript, it'll it picks up the Spanish around me and then
yeah,
puts it into English. It's like it's pretty awesome.
yeah. It's amazing.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But any other questions from you, Kelly, or anyone in the chat that's watching this?
I was just kind of on to see if you had learned anything new with the layouts, but like
Hmm.
I know you were on that one call earlier today, and
Right.
I was kind of curious on what question you asked, and then just like if you had any feedback from that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's right. That was the main purpose of the call that we haven't gotten into that much. Um, so I asked the CEO if it's the pronunciation, is it Descript or Descript?
I love it.
And he didn't give a clear answer. He said it's context dependent. He said it's like sometimes it's Descript, sometimes it's Descript was what I took away from it. I'm still gonna say Descript, but
Good question.
um
That's
yeah,
funny.
and then let's see. I asked about a brand kit, if they're gonna do a brand kit,
Yeah,
and it sounds like they don't really have that in the works. A brand kit meaning like whenever you add a text layer, if it's always going to be like your brand font, or um, when you pull up the color
right,
swatch, if there's like a palette where it would always be your colors, like
right.
that type of thing. And yeah, it sounds like they don't really have anything in the works like that yet, but I know I'm not the first person to suggest it because I've seen it on their features request log.
Mm,
But anyways, yeah, there wasn't anything that was like breakthrough for me about like applying layers. They showed like how it all works, which we can just talk about that, the or layouts rather.
mhm,
And let me just get my screen set up here. So they talked about a few like use cases, like where you might use the different layouts. And here we go. So if you go to scene, here's your where you apply the layouts, you go to change layout pack, and then you pick any of your layouts. Um, with Descript's built-in stuff, they just showed like if you're an educator, you might be doing a lot of the text overlays. And have you used these at all, Kelly, or are these all new to you?
No, like I was playing around with, the layout for the two cameras because like
Mm.
I didn't want to manually do it all myself for an hour and a half, podcast. And so I just picked one that was just um two the two cameras and then yeah, I think it was that
That
one with the
one?
border.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And if I apply it, it's just going to put placeholders in there.
right. And
But
then
yeah.
I would maybe play around with it, like do my own. Maybe I kind of customized it. At first, I didn't think I could, but I was able to customize it the way I wanted it, and then saved it as a layout that like I'll use again sometime.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I would suggest. Change the color, or
Yeah.
what I like to do on things like this is go into one of the backgrounds here,
Mm,
like something like that, and then it's not showing up. Oh, I think this gradient is in the way. Yeah, okay.
mhm,
Oh, wow.
And then you got like just a little bit of movement, like
Oh,
barely
that's really
perceptible,
nice.
but you get, and so exactly like you're describing, like change it to make it your own,
mhm,
and then click on the scene thumbnail
mhm.
and save new layout, and then that becomes your layout. And then when you go to apply multicam in the future, you can select it and it'll automatically put all those scenes into that view.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked it.
Um,
But I thought it was really important for you to remember that when you're saving the layout, like how to pick drive and not private. Because like I don't know why I was like getting really confused on like where it was getting saved.
yeah.
And I was like, I thought I saved this layout. Where is it? And um, so it was interesting, like why there's different um categories of where it's being saved.
Yeah. So you want me to explain that,
Sure,
or
yeah, you can.
yeah.
Just the
So if I go to change layout pack, you got these tabs
Mhm.
at the top. This is what she's talking about: drive, private, gallery. So drive means if you have other editors in your drive, then this is shared basically. As well as you can make these completely public. Like I have downloadable templates or layouts as they're now called them. It's going to take me a long time to break that habit.
Yeah.
Um, but so mine are like completely public, where I think even a Google search, you could find them and
Huh.
then anyone could download them. Or the level more restricted than that would be like just people that have access to your drive could access these templates. And then private just very simply means only you can see it, no one else at all. And
Yeah.
then gallery is just Descript's pre-made stuff. Like these you can't change. And so yeah, it defaults to private. Like if I go through it right now, I click save scene as new layout
Hmm.
and I click save to layout pack. It puts me into the private tab by default. So if you miss that,
Yeah.
then when you go to apply it and you're like looking through your drive, you're like, where the heck is it? That's probably what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember. Um,
Yeah.
I think too when I was saving it, like I didn't realize like the pack was like the first name and then you saved it as a different name. Like you're saving it kind of twice.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first time, if
You're
you
saving
don't,
it as a pack
yeah,
and
if you
then
don't already
name
have
it.
a pack, then you got to make
Right.
that. Yeah.
Right. That was a little confusing to me at first. I'm like, but I thought I was saving it as this. And then so I was like,
Yeah.
oh, it's a pack. Because then I named my pack podcast. And then if I had different layouts within the podcast pack, Like I named one shorts and then I named one, um, YouTube because they're all they're all applying to my podcast, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So that like what I would do is have a pack for each type of project, like kind of like what you're doing, like podcasts and then YouTube ones, or mm, if you had different clients like all together, or maybe for your one client, for your boss, if you had like his podcast template, and then you
Yeah.
have like maybe he does videos where he's like out and about or something. You have a
Yeah.
template for that, or a layout
Yeah.
pack rather.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so from this first view, if you've never created one, you got to click create new pack, and then this could be your YouTube pack.
Right.
And then again, you got to set the privacy here, share publicly. Again, that'll generate a link that you can share with the
Hmm.
whole world. And then hit create. And now, so now it's saying add to, oops, add to, and then YouTube is the pack I just created.
Yeah.
And then this could be my two cam view.
Yeah.
And then scene type. Do you know how this works? Do you want me to go into that?
Sure. Go
So
ahead.
yeah, so it defaults to other, but this is like labeling it just for your own uses. So
Hmm.
this one would probably be a multicam layout.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's kind of up to you how you want to do it. Like it could be a camera, it could be a multicam, it could be a speaker. Like it's up to you how you want to organize this for your own
Mm.
packs. But I'll call it multicam. And then inside of if I go change layout pack,
Hmm.
private, there it is. There's my YouTube pack I just created. Say see
Yep.
layouts. And then there's the
Hmm.
two cam view. I can't see the multicam label that I gave it because it's the only one in there. I'd have to have multiple. So I'll show you
Okay.
how that looks. If I go to gallery and I go to Descript's default ones, if I hit use layout pack, then in this view, like under camera, there's 5 things that have been
Yeah.
labeled as camera. So if I click on that, there's all the options.
Yeah.
And then if I go to zoom, they got a total of 3. Media, they got
But that
17.
doesn't show up unless you put your cursor over that. Like if your cursor is not there, you don't even you didn't realize there was more to look at.
Yeah, that is kind of weird, isn't it? Because it would
Yeah,
make
because
sense to
like
just
if your
always
cursor
have it
wasn't
there.
there and you didn't realize what you were doing, I'd
Right.
be like,
Yeah, there's a few things like that in Descript. Like the classic one is these dots. They don't show up until
yeah,
you're hovering over
yeah,
Mhm.
you never know there's more stuff you can do with it.
right.
Um, yeah, that's a good point. It doesn't show up and it could easily just always be there. Um, so yeah, so these are the different like
Mm-hmm.
things, the paragraph, text, list, those are the different categories you can label things as. And again, for the sake of our YouTube pack, we could have an intro, we could have an outro, things like
Yeah.
that. So
And I think I asked you one other time that can you save um like a music layer as as a layout or not?
yeah, you can. Yeah.
You can like
If I go to my layout packs, so here's my Descript Mastery one. And these ones are public. You can download this from my site.
and that's just music?
No, it's not just music, but music
Oh,
is part of like my outro
oh,
here,
okay.
I think. Yeah, see it has a music layer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what I could do is just delete everything. I could just have it where the music is in the script layer. Like now it's just music. and I could
Yeah,
save scene as new layout, and then that's all it would be is
I
that music
see.
layer.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, in this case though, what I would do is like that. I would have it as a layer above. Because if it's
Yeah.
in the script layer, it'll get replaced by whatever's in the script layer of the scene you're applying it to. So
Mm,
you'd want to have it up here. But that could be your layout right there. Yeah.
yeah.
I used to have layouts used to work really differently, and I
Hmm.
had an entire sound effects. I think I deleted it. Oh, here, no, top 25 sound effects. So these were just things that I used a lot that I
Hmm.
saved as templates back when they used to work differently. And
Oh,
so it was just faster to have these in one place than to
yeah.
always search and find the right one.
Yeah.
And so if I applied one of these, let's see what'll happen. It still does it, it just stacks it on.
Mm,
But these would kind of still work. Yeah, it would work.
mm.
But for audio only projects, there's templates don't even, or layouts just don't even exist. Like if I switch this to audio only and I go to, there is no scene. There's not even a scene button. So
Mhm.
there's just nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Is that what you had in mind was specifically with music, like how to just add it on top of something?
Yeah, like I haven't like of this intro music that will start at every podcast. But it's like a minute and no, it's more like 2 minutes. But my I don't use all 2 minutes, so I just want to use, part of it, and I don't want to have to find which part I always use. So I just need to like cut it or whatever, and then just save that part so I don't have to edit that music anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, let's pretend this is your music layer. You could
Hmm.
just cut out the first uh, like
Yeah,
that
like uh-huh.
and then just put it to start right where you want.
Yeah. And then
And
like I just want to use that part every time I start the podcast.
yeah, yeah, so exactly. Just cut it and then drop it at the beginning like that. With layouts too, if I have this staggered where this clapping sound effect starts 2 seconds in, that's exactly how it'll get applied. So you could do that as well. Play with the spacing so that it all is timed how you envision.
Yeah.
Um, and then if it fills the scene, so if this was, let me make this scene shorter. And let me make it even shorter than that. So pretending that this is like a 2 minute long song, but you're applying it to a minute long scene, the song will fill the scene completely if
Hmm.
the layout is set up to fill the scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you have it where it's like it cuts at a predetermined spot, like this goes from 0 to 4 seconds, then that's how it'll get saved. It's there's a lot of nuance to the layouts, like the
Yeah.
ins and outs.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it
Okay,
takes
and
a lot of practice.
somebody,
Mhm.
yeah, sorry, go ahead. Do you have another question
Oh,
about
I was
that?
just saying it takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, and they've gotten a lot better. Like the way it used to work was even more complicated, but I think they've done a good job of making it simpler compared to what it was.
Yeah.
But somebody in the chat asked a related question that when they save a pack, it saves the whole episode. And so what's probably happening is your whole episode is one scene because
Mhm.
layouts work scene by scene. So if I save this right now, pretending this is a long episode, it's going to save the whole thing as a layout. But if I click right here and I type a slash to add a scene, and now I go to save it, I say scene two right here and save that. It's only going to save scene two. the currently selected scene. So that's probably what's happening is your whole podcast isn't split up into separate scenes. Um, Anything else? We're at the top of the hour.
I'm good. I did another test today, so I'm going to go edit it now with this new way you showed me. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for joining.
All right. See you later, guys.
Yeah. All right. See ya. Thanks for joining, everyone.